Hey, it's your old pal Slim, and this is 70mm, a podcast for film lovers just like you. Every Monday, I chat about recently watched movies with my close friend and artist, Danny Haas.
No. I mean, when a publication that no one's ever heard of puts a movie that no one's ever heard of at number one, I was never going to give it a second thought.
And my close friend and movie insider, Proto.
Jeanne Dielman, 23, quai de commerce, 1080, Brazil.
Every month, we have a new theme that guides our featured presentation for that episode. And this time around, we're continuing with 70s month. And my pick, the winner of the recent Sight and Sound poll for greatest film of all time, Jeanne Dielman from 1975. Was this depiction of a widowed housewife a revelation? Or did it put us to sleep? Let's find out right now. Top movies of all time. We mentioned it last week in our Discord. Mackenzie from the Austin Danger podcast, that hit podcast, is putting together a poll. Sight and Sound put our movie this week, Jeanne Dielman, at the top. The greatest movie ever made. Mackenzie says, let's take it up a notch. Top 100 films of all time, according to the VHS Village. So I have never put a list like this together.
No.
But I did. I have a private letterbox list. I'm not going to share it just yet.
Mine's private.
Mine's private. Proto's yours private?
It's totally private.
We need can we get a 5-hour energy DoorDash delivery to Proto? So this is a lot of work. I mean, how many times have you sat down to say, what are the top best films ever made? I've never done it before this moment. So we're going to cycle through, give maybe a few of our picks from our own private lists. There was some consternation in Discord this week that Danny's list was just going to be Steven Spielberg movies. Are you ready to put the kibosh on those rumors, Danny, and reveal one of your picks?
Let me count how many Spielbergs are in my top 10. 3. I didn't realize there was that many.
Amazing.
Let's hear one of those 10. What do you think is one of the best movies ever made? The greatest.
This film made my list because A, it's so fresh in my brain, and B, because I loved it so much. Singing in the Rain made my top 10 of all time. It's a movie I've thought about multiple times since I've watched it recently for the first time. And also it's like, I want to revisit it so bad. And I feel like a movie that sinks its teeth that well into me. I know from here on out, it's going to be a movie that I will consider one of the bests.
I had this in my top 15. I had Singing in the Rain.
It didn't make top 10 for you.
No, it didn't make top 10.
Ooh.
Remember when Singing in the Rain lost the vote?
I know.
Lost the vote. The VHS
What did we do instead?
I can't even tell you what we did instead.
Nobody remembers. Nobody
was
remembers. It's probably our most popular episode of the year, but nobody remembers. Proto, what's one of your choices for the best films of all time?
One of my choices, a movie we covered on this show. I think at the time I said this might be one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen in my life. There were tears on this episode. Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh my
Lawrence.
God.
I mean, we're talking about beautiful 4K picture. We're talking about epic story. We're talking about, what's his face? Who's that actor? Peter O'Toole being a weirdo in the desert, man. Had everything.
For those Alec Guinness.
Oh my God.
I mean, wow. The brown face alone.
Seriously.
For those listening right now, yes, Proto has a lozenge in his mouth. Proto has had a hard week. Okay, you're probably hearing it in your headphones. What's that noise?
Slapping around.
Rattling around in my headphones.
We're not editing it out.
Listen, it's done, all right? I just
Did you
swallowed the
swallow
last
it?
piece. I just swallowed the last piece.
Oh my goodness.
It's over.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, you got to be careful what you swallow. One of my picks for the best films ever made is a movie that we covered for a bonus episode. Well, not bonus episode, just supporter-only episode. Remember when we did that tier where people could choose the movies we did?
Oh.
I was surprised. Speaking of which, we did a mailbag episode just for supporters. I'm surprised that question didn't come up. Like, when are you bringing back that tier? Nobody wants it, I guess.
Thank God.
That settles it. We're not doing it if nobody asks about it. This is currently number 3 on the Letterboxd Top 250. 1962, Harakiri.
Oh, good
Oh,
pick.
my God.
That's, in my opinion, one of the best movies ever made. Top
Great
10.
pick.
Easy.
Mm-hmm.
4.6. Masaki Kobayashi.
My gosh, that's so high. 4.6.
Yeah. Number 3. It's number 3 on the list.
Whew.
Behind Parasite and movie I still haven't seen, Come and See. So that's just a taste of one of the movies in my top 10. Danny, what's another taste of yours?
Another taste of my top 10. One that you just said, Parasite. I put Parasite in my top 10. That movie felt like a moment. And I remember just loving that film. And I think it deserves to be top 10 all time.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
Is it in your top 15?
It wasn't in my top 15. Maybe my top 15 is wrong. I haven't submitted this yet.
Yeah.
So if you're curious, you want to submit, you want to become part of this VHS Village Top 100, you have to join the Patreon, join the Discord, and you can find out the info ASAP. But
I have to revisit Parasite. I haven't seen it since the theater.
Maybe we should do a Parasite up.
Oh, babe.
Can you imagine Danny Parasite art? Proto's shoes just flew across the room.
The lozenges came back up.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I feel like Parasite belongs there, at least top 10. I don't know if it's the best, but it deserves it, in my opinion.
Good call. Good call. I mean, I'm not going to argue. This is all our own.
I would never argue with you, Slim.
Thank you. Proto, what's another movie from your top 10 best films of all time?
How about this one? From the master himself.
Uh-oh.
John Carpenter's The Thing.
Okay.
Talk about a movie.
Yeah. Talk about a real movie.
That ending.
Talk about a movie. My favorite part about that little teaser you did, The Master, I was thinking of 5 different directors that we've called The Master at a certain point. Who is it going to be? Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah, great movie.
Did I rewatch that recently? No.
Yeah, we covered it for a podcast.
Didn't you just say you weren't going to argue with me? You'd never argue with me.
Answering your question
Didn't you just say that? Criminy. Let me look at my list one more time. I've only given one, so I have 2 more choices.
You got to give 2 more now.
This one might shock people.
It won't.
2017.
Oh, that's
just
new.
Because you're invited doesn't mean you're welcome. From the master of horror himself, Jordan Peele, Get Out.
Oh,
what?
Get Out. Okay.
Yes.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that,
Great
Pro?
choice.
That's crazy. I like it though. Dang.
It's number 188 on the Letterboxd Top 250. What if we talked about doing a Jordan Peele month? We almost did that for Halloween, didn't we? Wasn't that one of the options?
He's got just enough movies to do a month.
3-week month. Yeah.
What if? What if? Danny, you're up again.
Up again. I'm picking another one. I'm not going to say one of my Spielberg ones. You guys can guess my Spielberg movies. This is one we covered on the podcast. And a one that kind of, it gripped my life for like a month, maybe 2 months straight after watching it. The Godfather.
Oh.
The Godfather is something that I feel like is something special that was made, and it's an incredible film. And I spiraled into making ofs and watching, the new TV show The Offer and learning everything I can about how this film was made, Coppola's process, the actors. I mean, this movie gripped me this year watching it for the first time. Wow. So I'm putting it on my top 10 for sure.
Oh my gosh. Part of your thoughts on that being in the top 10 best films of all time?
That's up there with a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. I think 50% of the male population has it as like their number one movie.
Their personalities are built around The Godfather. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, what if we did a Scarface episode?
I thought you hate that movie.
No, I don't have opinions either way.
You have.
I don't have a poster. I do not.
You have a Scarface opinion.
I bet you there's 20% of our audience listening right now has had a Scarface poster at some point in their life.
Is Omega watching that? Kidding me?
I mean, Brian De Palma with Al Pacino, that could be the most diabolical mix for me of all time.
Proto would retire from podcasting after that episode, I think. Proto, one more?
One more. There was some talk this week in the Discord about everyone was giving their top 10 Ghibli studio movies. So here's my number one. The Wind Rises.
Wow.
That's in my top 10.
Absolute banger.
Absolute banger. I love that movie so much. Mm-hmm. Just amazing animation. I think it's like Ghibli at the top of their game. But just then the story, of course, I love Ghibli for like the fantasy aspect, but this is all set in historical Japan, so it's different. It's a different vibe. But man, I was blown away by the story in that.
Yeah, I liked that movie when it came out. What was your number one Ghibli? Didn't you just post a list and it was like every Ghibli
posted
movie
like
or something?
10. There's no way I could. I mean, my number one is Nausicaa. I watched. I think that's my go-to.
My Dune.
They're all incredible.
Did you see this new movie Hayao Miyazaki is having out in 2023? How Do You Live? Excited. You heard about this? Mm-hmm. A lot of buzz. Some kind of bird on the poster.
The Movie Insider let me know about it.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that IG post. I'll tell you that much.
It's on his OnlyFans.
Pay up.
Just spit up on myself laughing at that. Let me go back to my list. One more pick from my list. 2006.
Uh-oh.
A director I've said previously that I would follow directly into the sun if I had to. Burned me alive.
Holy cow.
To follow in his footsteps. Children of Men.
That's on your top 10?
Alfonso Cuarón.
Huh.
Yes.
Top 10 of all time.
Top 10 movies ever made.
Oh.
5 bang.
Goodness.
That's an instant 5 bang. I will 5 bang that movie until the day I die.
Great pick.
That gets so much love on Letterboxd. People rabid for
They're rabid. They're rabid for it.
Clive Owen never worked again.
I'm not sure if that's true. He did a lot of BMW commercials.
Yo, BMW films slapped.
Man, Clive has been in a lot of junk. I'm looking at his filmography here. But he's been in Children of Men, and that's really all that matters. Ezra says Children of Men needs a criterion. I agree. Very much so. Every week, we give out a free year of Letterboxd Pro. You share the show on social media, tag a review, you get entered to win. Disclaimer, I'm a Letterboxd employee. And that gets rid of ads, gets extensive year-end stats. This one comes from Bobby Walnut, who last week said, just because we're recording this in advance, can't wait for the 70mm Pod doubleheader tonight. Definitely number one podcast in my orbit this last year.
My gosh.
Bobby Walnut, thank you.
Thanks,
Bobby.
Congratulations. So Jeanne Dielman is our movie this week, and we talked about how this was, it got buzzed like the last month or two because it was put up at the top of this critics poll, a Sight and Sound poll that's done every 10 years. And I think it's been in the top 10 or somewhere near the top 10, slowly moving up. So maybe we can go through that list real quick. We're only 15 minutes in this episode. So Danny had mentioned Singing in the Rain. That's number 10 on this year's list from the critics list.
I got to pull it up.
You're just going to watch Sing in the Rain right now as we record?
Yeah, I'm going to pull up the movie real quick.
Enough.
Let me look at the lists. That's what I'm talking about.
Number 9 is a movie, to be perfectly frank, I've not heard of. Man with a Movie Camera. I got to punch this in a letterboxd.
Is that the one where his face is the camera?
A cameraman wanders around Moscow, Kyiv, and Odessa with a camera slung over his shoulder, documenting urban life with dazzling invention. This list is interesting to me. You know, I'm not saying that the Letterboxd top 250 is like the end all be all, but some of these aren't even really, barely even in it. Like this one is not in the Letterboxd top 250. Jeanne Dielman, I think, is like maybe in the low 200s. So it's fascinating to see like how critics and filmmakers, because there's like a separate poll. There's a critics poll, there's a director's poll where they give their best films of all time. So the director's poll, 2001: A Space Odyssey won as the best movie ever made.
I will say another one of my top 10 is in the Sight and Sound top 10. Be that as it may.
Number 8 is Mulholland Drive, David Lynch, from the critics poll.
Wild.
Okay.
I've never seen Tokyo Story. Have you seen Tokyo Story?
No, I have not. In the Mood for Love, also in the critics poll. Beau Travail from Claire Denis.
What a poster.
2001, also in the critics poll. And the top 3 for the Sight and Sound critics is Citizen Kane, Vertigo, and Jeanne Dielman. Vertigo.
Vertigo is interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect that given the rest of this list.
I don't know that I would put Vertigo above Rear Window for Hitchcock.
Yeah, is Vertigo like considered his best?
No, not over Psycho.
So they polled, I thought I had the number. I feel like it was several thousand. 1,600 participating critics, programmers, curators, archivists, and academics. And Jeanne Dielman had 215 of those votes, so 13%.
Oof.
So if that puts it into perspective. Rear Window. Remember when he had that like full body cast?
Oh.
What's going on when he goes number 2 in that cast? He had it over his butt.
It was over his A cheeks.
It was over his A cheeks. I think it was over his front cheeks. So a lot of questions I had when watching that movie.
But Grace Kelly in that movie?
Oh my God.
Lord have mercy.
Was it this podcast that I had mentioned that Grace Kelly, I get Grace Kelly vibes from Brie Larson sometimes?
What?
Yeah.
That can't be.
I think so.
You've never said that.
I mean, Grace is still number 1 in my book. So in the director's poll, there is also In the Mood for Love. Persona makes the list. Vertigo, Tokyo Story. Jeanne Dielman is actually 4 in the director's poll. The Godfather, Citizen Kane, and 2001.
Whew. Bangers.
2001. Is it in our list?
It's a big one.
Yes, it's in mine. There you go. This is my 4th.
2001. When are we covering 2001?
Oh, that's a big day when we do.
Maybe the last movie we ever do.
Hang it up.
I mean, we got to start thinking about what episode 200 is going to be.
We have to start thinking about an exit strategy.
Acquire hire for 70mm. All right. We should get into the movie, I think.
It's time.
Jeanne Dielman is my pick for 70s month. And I felt like, this movie popped up on Sight and Sound. I think it was like a 5,000% increase on watch lists on Letterboxd. So if folks like to watch along with us, then maybe now's a good time to kind of force people to check something new out if they want. Proto, what's this movie?
Jeanne Dielman is a widowed mother of a teenage son. She spends her time keeping her home, making her meals, and sleeping with men to make ends meet. Her routines begin to unravel over the course of 4 days until it culminates in a decisive deviation from routine. Jeanne Dielman, 23, Quai de Commerce, 1080, Brazil.
Danny, had you heard anything about this movie before Sight and Sound or at all, like in your movie watching history?
No. I mean, when a publication that no one's ever heard of puts a movie that no one's ever heard of at number one, I was never going to give it a second thought.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I had never heard of Sight and Sound before.
No, never.
The release came out. In the Letterboxd Slack, everyone's like, oh my God, they need to just release this list. I think I might even said, like, I'll be brave right now. I have no idea what the F you guys are talking about. Like, what is this list? No clue.
I feel like everyone was losing their minds at this hit number one on Sight and Sound. It was impressive to see Twitter implode too. Twitter
lost it.
Yeah.
This podcast is for people who know what Sight and Sound is and those who don't know what Sight and Sound is. We're the cross section. We're the Venn diagram of those people. What about you, Proto?
Yes, of course I've heard of this movie, please. As an avid letterbox peruser of lists and whatnot, yeah, I've definitely come across this movie.
Oh.
I mean, I think the poster is very intriguing of her sitting at a table. It must have been like on a list of greatest movies of all time. And then like, I think a movie like I never heard of with a poster like this. So I've clicked on it definitely a couple times, but then you look at like, okay, 202 minutes. All right, maybe Next Life will check that one out.
It's got a great Criterion cover too.
Yes, it does. I had only known about this movie because on the Letterboxd show, maybe last year, Gemma and I interviewed Isabel Sandoval, the director of Lingua Franca, and then she did an episode of that Andrew Garfield TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she did. I think she did the episode where he was in the car where he cried. I think that one. And one of her 4 favorites was this movie. This was also probably the first time I'd ever heard of French New Wave, or like, I have no idea what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 of her movies were kind of like weirdly styled. And that was like, oh, French New Wave is like a thing. So everyone just give us some space. If you know what French New Wave is and you're rolling your eyes,
please.
This is how people learn. We're learning together. We're changing. We're experiencing new things. So I did watch it last year, and I think in my Letterboxd review, I even said, like, I've never seen anything like this in my life. You know, I'm watching Steven Seagal directed video movies, people, right. Okay? You go from Steven Seagal to this, you're going to get whiplash.
More than whiplash.
You're going to die, potentially. So Chantal Ackerman is the director of this movie. And in this segment, we'll go round table. Each host jots down 3 things that we want to try to bring up in conversation. And then we'll go through our honorable mentions and Letterboxd ratings to close out the discussion. So let's start with Danny this week.
Sure. My number one thing is how impressive Chantal was at the stationary cameras in each room. How it felt like there was just, I don't know. I don't even really know how to explain it. How it just felt very, somehow I was like in it. Like I felt like I was really into, what she was doing. And my favorite bits that she would do would be, when a scene would end and, Jeanne would either leave the room, turn the lights off on a room, something in transition. We would linger there for maybe 2 or 3 extra seconds more. And it just felt like we were left with our thoughts on what just happened in that scene before we move on to the next scene of whatever task she's moved on to, whether it be a gentleman caller or taking her, like, cleaning her son's shoes, cooking. Like there were these like little bits of moments that gave us time to pause, and just kind of catch up and think about what's happening, what's gonna happen. And honestly, it gave us time to catch the things that ultimately lead her to losing herself. Mm-hmm. There was a moment, I remember saying to Casey while we were watching, oh my gosh, she missed a button in her dress, or like when she's peeling the potatoes and it's a little bit slower, or she just stares at it for a second. It's like you can catch these little things because you've sat with this woman in her routine for so long, and it's It's impressive. It's nothing like I've ever seen before.
Right. We should tell people if you're listening and haven't watched it, like there's shots that last like 5 or 10 minutes. So she's making dinner. She's cleaning shoes. That's what you're looking at for extended periods of time with no dialogue. Mia, my co-host on Weekend Watch List, there was a screening in December that she went to with, presumably a bunch of movie nerds. And she left this review that was cracking me up. Chantal forces you to memorize and empathize with this woman's routine. Long static wide shots of Jeanne polishing shoes and washing dishes and brushing her hair last for several minutes with no cuts, so that when she inevitably begins to subtly unravel, we take notice. So much so that when she accidentally drops a fork around hour 2, the whole audience gasped.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So full disclosure for me.
Let's hear it.
Didn't finish it.
I was up against a tight window of time to watch this movie. And I actually had to watch like the first 3/4 of this while I was wrapping Christmas presents. So I was slightly preoccupied. So I was trying to watch, I couldn't watch scenes of a marriage while doing it because you had to read the whole time. But I was like, oh, this one, there's no reading. That's good. But I think it kind of did break me out of it because it's weird in a movie that's 3 hours long that you need to be, that's very slow and there's a lot of repeating scenes. Even my son came into the room and he was like, I think he asked multiple times if I paused the movie. So even though it's slow, it like demands your attention because you need to notice those little things that happen. And I did pick up on some of those things, but as I was reading the reviews, I could tell that like I didn't have the attention for this movie that it requires to get the full experience from it. Which is a shame. I wish I was able at the time to give it like everything that it required. I think I don't know. That was my experience. So like not having the full attention on it, it didn't allow me to kind of be, I think, absorbed with what was going on.
Yeah, there isn't another movie. Like you could say the same thing. Last week's Scenes from Marriage demands your attention in that you have to read the subtitles. There's almost like no breaks for that 3.5 hours. This one is a completely different experience in that like no one is saying anything on screen, but what's happening on screen almost demands your attention in a different way. Like when after she has that dude come over the second day, I think it was the second day, and she gets the money and she puts it in the pot, but she doesn't put the lid back on.
Yeah.
And then that was like another tell that like slowly things are starting to change a little bit. Like the one that Amanda noticed, or the one maybe that I pointed out, was when she went to get coffee and someone was in her seat. And then I was like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
It's
like
on.
I knew.
Did Amanda watch the whole thing?
Yeah, maybe that'll lead into, was that your first point or was that a general comment, Proto?
I guess that was I'll take it as my first point.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my first point would be like, so I put this on almost like right after Scenes from Marriage.
Oh, Lord.
But I can't remember the order of events. But I don't think Amanda was not with me when I watched Scenes from Marriage. So this one came on and like literally 5 minutes, she's like, what are you watching? What is this? I was like trying to tell her, like, well, it only gets worse from here, my friend. So she didn't really get it at first. Like, and obviously she's like crocheting while this is happening. So most of the stuff we watch, she's crocheting kind of in the background. Right off the bat, I had to like explain her. I was like, as soon as I like out loud tried to explain what French New Wave was, I was like putting my glasses up. I was like, wow, they make these weird movies that are different than your normal movie. So by the end, I was kind of like pointing out when some of that stuff would happen, like the button stuff or where she like the fork drop. And then I think either she or I said, it might have been her or me, I can't remember. It was like, I put this quote, does she have the worst life ever? And then like when you're watching this movie and you ask that question out loud, you're almost like, now you're getting it. You're almost like, the movie forces you to like think about this way of life for so many people, and in maybe your own life, really, or the people around you that have like this way of life, this way of going day to day through menial tasks, and what that impact on them is. There's obviously a huge feminist curve to this movie, and was at the time that this came out. But by the end, Amanda was like, I think I put in one of my reviews, she wanted to strangle me. But really, like, you could say she wanted to strangle me in different ways. Like, you could say, like, I'm the man at a certain point, like any man she would probably want to strangle, really, by the end of this movie. Because so many women go through this, et cetera, et cetera. So by the end of the movie, I think she enjoyed the experience. Danny, what's your number 2?
Number 2, I want to talk about the ending real quick. And I mean, we talked about how she slowly loses it. I forget why we paused it at one point, and Casey went and did something, and she texted me like she was really liking this film. And I was like, I wrote back like, I need murder. Like, I was like, I wanted to kill someone. Like, I really wanted murder in this film. There was something about it that felt it. And so when she actually kills the guy at the end with the scissors, after that, the hard to watch sex scene with the two of them, I don't even know if you can call that sex. I don't know what that was happening in that bed.
Whoopee.
But I was shocked. Like, my eyes were like wide open when she stabs him in the neck with the scissors. And then she just sits in quiet with blood on her. And it kind of it's how the movie ends. And I was in shock that this is how this movie ended. I really did not expect. Actually, I had no idea how this movie was going to end. I really didn't. Right. But her killing one of her patrons was not what I was expecting. I don't know about you guys.
No, I think the first time I watched it, I probably was waiting. I was like, because you could almost like call this like a documentary, really, in some respects, like a really long cut documentary. And then you're like, well, what is the ending of this movie going to be? I don't think the first time I saw it, I was aware of like the little bits and pieces that happen, that cause her to kind of go off track and change, or like really just get over it. Or, so I think I was probably more like Proto on that first viewing when I watched it for the Letterboxd show. I just kind of missed all that. I glossed over it in that viewing.
I kind of had the sense that she was going to kill him at the end, but I guess, not being fully engaged with this movie at the end, I was kind of like, just like shrugged, like my hands up in the air, like what, like what's, like why, like what's going on? Like, is there a good explanation, or like a summary as to what this means? Because I really just like have no idea. Like, this viewing, like, I'm just kind of like lost as I'm like, looking up from cutting paper and taping boxes to like see these, seemingly random moments. And then at the end, she just kills this guy.
I mean, you could say all those random moments caused it. I mean, I think one of the themes is like at that stage of the expectations for a housewife or a woman to like do these tasks, these menial tasks, and just get used to it, get over it. But I mean, when she does it every day, day in and day out, you start to see that it just sucks. Like, why can't she go out and have a job? Or why is that expectation on her? Like, her son, that shitheel son of hers, who never like says thank you to anything that she does. And then when certain cracks happen in her day to day, she doesn't really have anything to fall back on. She can't talk to her son about it. She can't talk to her dead husband. She can't. I mean, her one, was that even her friend that dropped off the kid? Like, even Amanda was like, she doesn't even talk to the woman who drops off the child. She doesn't talk to anybody. She has nobody.
Oh yeah.
And then Amanda was like, who even drops off a baby without saying hello or goodbye? She was like furious at this woman.
It's a giant baby too.
Yeah. I was nervous for that baby.
I also thought something was going to happen to the baby the first time I watched it.
Yeah, the way she was picking that baby up and trying to console it but like being completely devoid of like any human empathy while doing it was scary.
Proto number 2? We've already gone through Proto's list.
I have this line written down. Mom, I used to try to stop Dad from thrusting inside of you. And then the mom basically said, son, it's late, and walked out of the room. I would love to read. Actually what I meant to do, because I wasn't able to watch much of this movie, like be engaged with it, I wanted to go and read about it, of just like breakdowns of it, because it's clearly there's like a lot here, but I'm just like, I don't have the tools. Like I didn't have the time.
Yeah, this dweebo son. Sorry if people like the son. I just thought it was a dweeb. The penis sword talk and him making up nightmares so that she would not have sex with the dad, because he thought that, like, his interpretation of sex was like him causing harm to the mother. So he would make up nightmares to like take her out of the room at night. Oh my God. The matter of factness of that conversation made me completely unsettled. Completely unsettled.
He's also like 40 years old. I'm so confused at how little he knows about sex at this point.
He has a wind-up watch. Did you notice that though?
Oh, what was the watch? I didn't see it.
I didn't see what the watch was, but he wound it before bed. I definitely made a note. She tries to explain about like love, being in love, and she just makes this like offhanded comment. It's just a detail, and then goes to bed.
Oh, you know what? A question I have is at the end, when was it? I guess like after dinner, they would then go out and go on those walks.
Yeah.
Was there an explanation? Is that what it was? It was just like a walk around the block.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The one thing, when they were walking at night, was that the darkest alley in the history of going? Who would ever go out at night and walk in that alley?
Couldn't see a damn
You
thing.
would be dead, murdered.
Thought it was my TV.
By some crook.
Chantel, can we get some lighting in this alley?
That was another $100,000. She didn't have the funds for it. My other note, I think my number 2 would just be this type of filmmaking. And for anyone that watched this movie for the first time and was just kind of like, WTF, thanks for joining us. But Chantal also has another movie that I've seen, News from Home, which is, it's just almost just video footage of New York City while she was there, while reading letters that her mother sent her back home in Brussels. And that is another just kind of, I want to say like bizarre format, but it's similar to this in that I've never watched a movie like that before, where it's just still video of New York City while she's reading these letters.
Oh,
and it's 85 minutes long. I think someone had that as a fave as well. So she has a very varied filmography. And I also just am so blown away by her making this movie at 25. What the French was I doing when I was 25?
Like, I don't even want to know.
It's a good question.
Can you imagine having the wherewithal to make this movie and try to make a statement about, a lonely, housewife, I guess, so to speak, and your perception of like gender roles in the 70s at 25? I mean, the amount of balls she had to do this, and it's still regarded as like one of the greatest movies ever made, regardless of Sight and Sound's poll. I'm just blown away by that.
Yeah, when I read she was 25, I immediately was like, oh, this is probably something, maybe not on the level of the prostitution, but this may be something she watched her mother do, or just the monotony of life. Like maybe she's experienced this on some level with her mother, because she's so young, but this feels like a story. I don't know, an older, not a 25-year-old is making this story, is what I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole, on Vimeo, or however you want to say it, there's like an hour-long documentary, and it really is just whoever was someone on set filming them film this movie. And it was an all-female crew, an absolute incredible thing to see. But they were just the tightness of this apartment that they were filming this in, with so many people around, like Ackerman sitting at the foot of the bed while she's staring in the mirror. Like she's a foot from her in this whole scene. It's like, It's incredible to watch how they made this. It was just something that kind of blew my mind.
Oh, I love the, how the kitchen was shot. It was mostly shot from like two directions, like either facing the sink or facing the window out so you could see her sitting at the table. But then at the end of the movie, you saw it from the window, like going towards the door. And even that was kind of shocking just to have like that different perspective in the room. Mm-hmm. Whereas you were so acquainted with the other view for so long.
I bet when she was peeling those potatoes.
Oh,
I was like yelling at my TV.
Scared I thought she would cut her hand off. Stressing me out.
I was like, how long does it take to peel a potato? Danny, number 3.
The only thing I've else written down that we've talked about is just the cooking. Mm-hmm. I don't know why there was the whatever scene she was making a meatloaf. I couldn't. It was incredible, but like my skin was also crawling. Like how many times she kneaded the meat. It was just the sounds of that scene. Someone had said it was like an ASMR movie, and it really is at some point when you can hear the slapping of the meat. It was a lot to take, but a lot of the cooking stuff was just interesting to sit and watch that. I was really impressed.
Yeah, when she was preparing the veal, I was like, sister, you need another plate or something.
Can we get a platter in this house? Something bigger.
Meat fondling.
One other point I had written down was how not just very in the beginning when everything is done correctly. Every time she leaves a room, the light turns off, the door closes. When she half puts out the tablecloth, because it's just her and her son now in the house, she only does half the table. Folding his own PJs and folding them back up into the folding bed every night. Mm-hmm. There was something about the day to day or the hour to hour of watching this that was mesmerizing.
I don't even think I do the same thing every night before bed. Let alone fold. Yeah. Like I'll kick off some pants in the corner of the room. Maybe I'll clean those up a week from now. Sorry, Jeanne.
That's definitely me.
I'm like I'm like a total creature of habit. I'll like do the same exact thing every single day.
Not every day. I do have a routine at night, but yeah.
Proto number 3 for Jeanne Dielman.
I guess just some of the random notes I had. I don't really have like a third point. I just kept thinking of Ed TV the whole time watching this. Just felt like very voyeuristic of like watching someone's life. And you're just thinking of that Matthew McConaughey movie from back in the day. You guys remember that?
I never saw it.
It's like he has like a TV station, and it's just like someone follows him with a camera, and it's kind of like the Truman Show, but if the person was in on it, or his whole life.
Ron Howard movie.
Uh-huh.
I think it came out the same year as Truman Show. It was like one of those double releases. I could be wrong, but look at Woody Harrelson, ageless in that backdrop.
Ageless.
Oh my God, looks incredible.
This is the Avenger Endgame of doing chores. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, I wish I really could have been more engaged with this because
us too.
It's something else, it's something different.
So I did want to talk, I don't have a ton to say. Like I talked about a little bit about French New Wave. So in that episode with Isabel, she also chose Hiroshima Mon Amour, which I really loved. Set in Hiroshima at the end of World War II, the couple, lovers turned friends, recount over many hours previous romances and life experiences. The two intertwine their stories about the past with pondering the devastation wrought by the atomic bomb dropped in the city. So that was a great movie. And I think I'd watched 8.5, which is a movie the Cinenauts did, and that was a kind of weird formatted movie that I did not like at all. But I don't know. I want to investigate more of this style of filmmaking, movies that just are structured outside the norm. But I can see why some people don't. Like they watch one weirdly structured movie and they're like, I think I'm out. I'm gonna get back to what I like watching, and that's good enough for me.
Back to Steven Seagal.
Back to Seagal. Danny, closing thoughts, honorable mentions, and rating for this movie?
No honorable mentions. Closing thoughts. I think when I finished watching this movie, I was sitting at 4 stars. But this files definitely under the more you sit with it kind of cinema. And the more I read about it, the more I read about Chantel, and super bummed that she took her life at 65. Like, it just really, I don't know. There's something about that really bummed me out. And, but I really started to love this film, reading about the making of and how she got it made. And, I think I'm at 5 stars for this.
Whoa! Oh my God.
And I do think it's a masterpiece.
Oh my God.
5 stars. Stunned.
I'm not going to apologize again.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I'll have to rewatch this at some point. I'll give it 3 stars.
3 stars from Proto on this watch. Listen, people can have different experiences, you know? You can have different experiences when you watch these movies. You can rate it
I may hate it the next time I watch it.
You might rate it 3 stars next time you watch it.
Not gonna happen.
It's gonna be a Christmas movie at the Haas household. Right after It's a Wonderful Life. Let's fire up this John. My final thoughts. The scene where she forgets her bag and she looks in that store window instead of like going home. She goes back in that. She just like goes in that store off kilter. The button conversation. She was trying to explain to like the seamstresses about the button. Oh my God. I'm like scratching my forehead. Like I can't deal with this conversation anymore. I can't do it. Dark streets, someone in her chair. I think I'm at 4 stars for this movie. It's worth experiencing. And that's the main reason I wanted to choose this movie, was to try to have people watch this and see something different for the first time. Like, not that you don't experience different movies, but this is very different than the norm. I mean, we just did 3 friggin' James Cameron movies. You know, we did 2 Avatars and Titanic, and we followed it up with Scenes from a Marriage and this. So I hope people enjoyed watching along with us and felt something different than maybe they have in the past. All right. We have a letter, I think, to get to. You can shoot us a letter at 70mmpod@gmail.com. Jeanne Dielman email. Jeanne Dielman. Did anyone make that joke yet? Oh, Kev just did. Jeanne Dielman. I might have to get...
Let's move on.
I might have to get South Fellini to make a t-shirt for this.
I need you to not.
Jeanne Dielman. Make it in like the Phillies font or the Flyers font or something.
Can we move on?
It works every time.
My God, it just writes itself. This comes from Robert. Hey, 70mm fam. My favorite thing about 70mm and what got me immediately hooked when I first found the show was the unique variety of films that you all covered. When I started doing my own dive into older films, yours was the only podcast I found that covered both Wings and Metropolis. And then wait, is that Shrek and Monty Python in the same feed? I love that you all make it a point to shine light on different voices in film that haven't always gotten the shine they deserve. My favorite new discovery, thanks to 70mm so far, is His House, a 5-banger that I never would have watched without you guys. I can't wax poetic like others, including some fellow VHS villagers, have about the incredible filmmaking on display in Jeanne Dielman, but I just love the fact that she was able to make something so rebellious in its dedication to simplicity and domesticity. So many women were intentionally excluded from writing and directing for decades, and with this feminist masterpiece of a movie, Ackerman showed exactly what the male studio executives were afraid of, being different, challenging, and ending with a small explosion of all the pent-up frustration towards those in power. It was a quiet revolution of a film, and that's why I'm so pleased that it topped the sight and sound list. Thank you for all your wonderful conversations, mind-blowing artwork, and the best Discord community in the world.
Goodness.
Comes from Robert. My God, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, Robert.
Robert.
Incredible
My God.
stuff.
What a letter. What a letter. Did you drop the artwork yet?
I did.
Oh, my God. I mean, Mario, drop this .png meme, please. Please. I think we all agree. So, like, talking about Robert, about how we have the variety. I love that we have that variety. We don't do the same thing in all these episodes. And we kind of know when we've done too like many like mainstream hits that, and we have like a sizable audience. So I personally feel like we have a responsibility to shed light on those voices that otherwise people might not watch. You know, you get roped into the same thing over and over again. Let's change it up.
I mean, we may be three white men. We have three different voices.
Right. We're three white men. We're trying our best here. The man is holding us down everywhere we go. No, I'm just kidding. That's fake. That's fake. I don't believe that. Please. Oh my God. You know what I just remembered?
What?
We're getting Proto's pick for next week.
Proto's pick.
70s month.
Mamma mia.
The grit, the grime. Proto has said this is the best decade in human history.
He did.
I did say that.
So your turn is next week.
My turn's next week. I went back and forth. I feel like I'm going back and forth a little bit even right now. I will say a movie that I was looking at, it's not my pick, but I almost turned it into this month into a Liv Ullmann month.
Oh.
There's a movie called The Immigrants from 1971, but it's not, it's like not streaming anywhere, and it's like really, really hard to get a hold of. So I didn't want to pick that because I just didn't think anybody would want to be able to watch it. But it's actually I think it's like a two-parter.
I think she was nominated for Best Actress in that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
As Max von Sydow as well. So I have it on my watch list. Someday I'll watch it. Yeah, this was hard. There was a few big heavy hitters to pick from, but I love watching new movies, things we haven't seen before. So I haven't seen this movie. It's from 1975. Some call this the most beautiful picture ever made.
Oh.
I've read that.
Oh.
Avatar 2.
Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon.
Oh,
what?
Man.
What?
Was this our first cube?
No, we did The Shining.
The Shining. That was like 6 years ago. Sorry.
What?
I also thought it's good to keep, we've done 5 movies that are 3 hours long. Let's just keep the train going.
Is it 3 hours long?
It's another 3-hour movie.
Oh my God. Barry
man.
Lyndon.
I'm excited. I've been wanting to watch this for a while. I
thought you watched it.
No, Ian from the Cinenauts, former producer, now disgraced, loves this film, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
And he championed it a bit. And so I've wanted to watch it. So I'm very excited.
Oh, I thought you watched it.
This was on my short list, Proto, for this month too. So
You kidding me?
Very excited. No, I've never seen it.
An Irish rogue uses his cunning and wit to work his way up the social classes of 18th century England, transforming himself from the humble Redmond Barry into the noble Barry Lyndon. Ryan O'Neal.
I'm excited.
My God, starring in a Kubrick movie. What a weird sentence. Never seen this. Brandon, who posted a dead Kermit gif, 5 stars.
Oof.
2 log jobs. Flawless in February 2021.
Oh my gosh.
And then 5 stars again, May 2022.
Holy cow.
Let me see if V'ger can pull up some data here.
We need some data on this.
I'm gonna kick V'ger, the supercomputer who loves movies that Proto built.
Wake it up.
And I'm gonna punch in Barry Lyndon, and it's gonna tell me what our supporters think of this movie using the power of computers and technology. Oh my God. Average rating for Barry Lyndon, 4.21.
Good God. Whew. It's a 4.3 on Letterboxd.
Every frame is a painting, Goody says.
I'm excited. I'm very excited, actually.
Ian, our former producer, who we've mentioned is disgraced, we had to part ways early in the show's history.
Yeah.
Started 2021 with a heater, all caps, 4.5 stars.
Classic Ian review.
It's the most Ian review ever. I'm surprised he didn't say, 10 out of 10, 4.5 stars.
Idiot.
Ian, who those might remember from the Stranger Things season 4 episode. I love how V'ger like cuts off after the first like sort of sentence. So you get like half thoughts. Chris left a review on V'ger. Watched a Criterion Blu-ray. Blake, sweet Brian, why? Lucas, this was something. Robert, oh my goodness. Are you guys ready for this?
What do you say?
Robert, is this the same Robert who left us that beautiful letter? 2 stars. One of the most boring movies I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
What?
It's got to lower expectations.
Robert with a total 180. Stopped around the 2-hour mark because I couldn't bear one more hour.
He probably had Christmas wrapping to do.
Christmas Eve wrapping gifts. Passed out. All right, this is streaming on HBO Max for all our Maxies out there.
I might have to grab the Criterion though. You know?
Is this happening?
Got a disc?
Is the Criterion a Blu-ray?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a great poster. Number 86 on the top 250.
Incredible.
Okay.
Great pick. Very excited.
Coob's back after The Shining, which if everyone remembers, I gave 3.5 stars.
You did not have to remind us.
Just if anyone was forgetting the infamous Shining episode, go back and listen to it.
Idiot.
Proto, any closing thoughts this week before we go into Barry Lyndon?
I love what you said, Slim. You know, we got to open yourself up to different types of movies. And we did that this week with Jeanne Dielman. So I'm glad that we can do that for the people and continue to do that until we finish the show with 2001 in a few years.
God. We'll see everybody next week. Barry Lyndon, 70s month. $70mm is a tape deck production featuring original artwork provided by Danny Haas. Spiritual guidance and V'ger, the robot who loves movies, provided by Pertalexis. Producer at large, Dale_A. Transcripts provided by Sophie Shin and music composed by Cinematric. Prints and other merch are available on 70mmpod.com. This episode was mixed, edited, and produced by me, Slim. Support our Patreon for access to our VHS Village Discord to talk movies with new friends, access to our exclusive episodes in the 70mm vault, discounts on merch, uncut episodes, and a physical membership card mailed to you. To check out other Tape Deck podcasts, find the link in the episode notes. And if you'd like to support our friends at Letterboxd and upgrade to Pro or Patron status, you can do so with a 20% off discount using the links on 70mmpod.com. Goodbye.
This is a Tape Deck podcast.